Limited and CyberSecure.KIWI have partnered with CERT New Zealand, and this event is specific to small businesses where they don't really have any dedicated IT or security support person, and they need some easy to implement security tips. So in this webinar, Michael and I will provide some practical tips as well as any of the next steps required if the businesses have more need in terms of cybersecurity tips. And what we'll do is we'll go through the agenda in a sec, and then there are 4 parts to this webinar today. Firstly, we'll talk about why cybersecurity is essential for small businesses. Why do we really need to care about this? And then second part, we'll talk about the easy ways to implement in your small businesses and even in your personal aspect of cybersecurity, like how you use your devices and internet. And then we'll talk about some of the free resources we've got there. And then in the last session, we'll talk about next steps and Q&A. Each of these ones will not take more than 15 minutes. We are assuming that we'll be able to cover this first 2 in next 25-30 minutes, and then we'll talk about some of the free resources, and then we'll have Q&A, which is again an open session. You can switch on your mic and your camera, and then we can go through that. So why cybersecurity is essential for small businesses is we recently, all of you might have seen some news. Last month, we had some of the banks, including Kiwi Bank, ANZ, and one internet service provider who had a denial of service attack. I wasn't able to access my bank account for actually almost 2 days. I assume some of you might have had the same experience or not. And then internet services were down for one of the big internet service provider. And another big one where actually a data breach was involved was Waikato DHB earlier this year in May, where they had their entire IT system crashed due to a ransomware attack. So all their IT systems were not available for use. And some of their services were still down after a few weeks of the attack. And hackers reportedly took some of the patients' personal information, like their name, date of birth, etc., as well as what kind of procedures they were going through. And Waikato DHB staff wasn't able to serve its patient for quite a few days. And there was a delay even afterwards. So essentially that impacted quite a lot of people out there. So these are not only these incidents, they actually impacted the big businesses, but also any of the smaller businesses and individuals who were working with them. And I want to actually show you now the incident reported to CERT New Zealand in the last 1.5 years. So you would see there is a sharp increase from Q1 to Q2 to Q3. Again, this was the time when we went into our first lockdown. So each one of us were working from home, and then we had quite a few emails, everything going on here and there. So there were always a possibility that we had that there were things which at that point in time took this turn. So the events went up high, and then essentially in 2020, we had around 7,800 security incidents which were reported to CERT New Zealand. And mind you, this is just the reported incident. So we are expecting this to be at least 3 times, if not more. So at least 20,000 incidents we are expecting, because a lot of people don't just don't report. And if you see on the right hand side, 80% of the incidents actually involve scam, fraud, phishing, and account compromise. And all these ones actually accounted for a few $1 million, like I won't say few $100 million of loss. And essentially each one of the incidents on an average lost more than $2,000. So, and there have been some security advisories as well, like the devices you use, like Android phones, Apple devices, as well as Office 365, which everybody uses, Microsoft Windows. Facebook had a interesting data leak where the information from the people there actually of whoever was using Facebook, few million people, they had their information leaked to the public. It was available out there. So small businesses, again, as we earlier talked about, they don't really have a dedicated IT guy, leave alone the security guy. Security guy is much more harder to get for small businesses. And of course, living on an island, we always think that we don't really have much to lose. Who would actually who would actually worry about our data or hacking us? But what we have seen in our working with small businesses don't like to report those small things, and even employees, they hide what has happened. And some of the small businesses, essentially, they take a really big hit. Like there is income loss in terms of if they are not able to provide services to their customers, and extra expenses if their data is lost, if their devices are lost, then obviously they lose money on that. To get that data recreated again. For example, a virus or a ransomware can make your sales or your financial records or even your customer details unavailable to you. So what would you do in that point of time? So if you have any physical records or a backup, you could possibly restore the backup or recreate the records, which is again a time-consuming process. And sometimes it's actually hard to get the data there because it's not available. It's not even backed up for some of the small businesses because they haven't really thought about it. And then, as we said, if somebody steals your customer's information, they can blackmail you or blackmail your customers. And if your customer is worried enough, they could even sue your firm. So, for example, a hacker steals some information of a customer about their upcoming merger or acquisition. The merger falls through due to the data theft, and the customer holds you accountable and then sues you for failure to protect its data. So the company directors are personally liable for not doing if they don't do the due diligence, they are personally liable. They can be fined, and there are other implications as well. And of course, if we by chance get a ransomware, then hacker does not only steal, but it actually makes your systems unavailable and ask you to pay a good hefty amount as ransom. Again, interesting one. So where they asked you to pay either in Bitcoin, which some of the small businesses don't even know what Bitcoin, of course, everybody has heard, but not everybody deals in Bitcoin. So they go here and there. So it's a really hard time for those small businesses. And then the big one there is actually reputational damage. So cyber attacks can seriously damage your company's reputation. Potential customers may avoid doing business with you, and obviously believing that you or your business are careless and your internal systems are weak, or that associating with you, with your business, actually damage their reputation. So obviously they won't associate, or they won't do business with you in that kind of, if it goes out, obviously. So some of the main cyber issues for small businesses is the first one is business email compromise, where your email is taken over by the hacker, and they can control and actually email other people on your behalf, either to do the payment into another bank account which they have created for their own benefit, or they can make your systems unavailable and ask you for ransomware or identity of the people you work with, or your customers' identity, like their name, address, phone numbers, and or even their credit card details could be stolen. Or if you lose devices like your phone, your laptop, because again, everybody is working from home. Thankfully, we are not traveling as much at this time. But when we travel, on an average, businesses lose like 100 people. Business loses around 1 to 2 devices a year on an average. So that's again a big one. And phones, again, people lose, or there are other things which can happen to your phone, like it can crash, or it can be damaged. So what will happen in that kind of instance? Do you have uh, any any backup plan for that, essentially? So these are the small businesses. Now, actually, I would like to go through some of the examples of phishing, where you can see how you can identify the phishing emails. So some of these examples you can see on your screen. The email looks to come from Visa or PayPal. Obviously, they will really use the original logo. So you would again be thinking that it'll show from Visa or from PayPal. But then if you go into the detail, that it'll have a generic salutation. It won't put in your name, or it would ask you to take an immediate action. So if they're asking you to take immediate action, if they're asking you to click on a link, uh, you see even the links are like visa-secure.com or PayPal dash something, or something of that sort, which is not exactly uh, uh, Visa or PayPal sites. So again, you can, if you give it a thought before clicking, and see what are the quick things which you can identify before clicking. And if you get an email from your employees, or anybody from your supply chain, like, okay, we are changing the account number to from this to that, then actually have a chat with them. Just pick up the phone, because all of us are working from home, and then there is always a possibility that their account got hacked and so on. So some other examples, like Amazon, again, same logo, OneDrive from Microsoft. Really interesting one, where they have tried to use the original logos. But again, if you click on the link, again, you will see, or sorry, don't click on the link. If you hover your mouse over the link, then you will see what is the original link, if it's not showing Amazon.com, or you can always check with their customer support. This one, actually, I got this morning, actually not this Friday, where I got really good money from somewhere, 37,000 pounds. If it's too good to be true, it is not. That's what I would say. So if somebody is giving you free money, why would they do that? So there are so many scams and other things going on. You would, I think every one of you would be getting some emails every day, which will either have some some scheme or some money, or your account got logged, or you've got a speeding ticket and so on, or you've got a NZ Post courier waiting for you, just sit back and check before you click. So if you click on any of these, one impact is you could either pay them some money, or some malware could get installed on your machine. So some of the examples of how the malware can encrypt your machine and then show you this kind of message where you have to pay some money to some account, a Bitcoin account or something like that, which is, again, we have seen all these kind of examples. I'm sharing only a few with you because we don't have much time. So these were all the problems which we have seen for small businesses. So what's the solution essentially? What do we do? Small business don't have much money to spend on all the shiny things, or get a consultant and then have him or her spend few hours or few days to go through this. So some basic things which we can do, and we will talk about each one of those ones. 4 easy steps which we have found, and also New Zealand's incident response team has identified that these 4 steps are much more effective for individuals and small businesses. So let's go through each one of those ones. But I would just stop because I have been talking a lot and I want to get a bit of feel. You please feel free to put your comments or anything if you want to know more, or if there is anything you want to ask about. I'll just stop for 10 seconds. Yeah, so if you've got any questions, you can either put it in the chat box or we can take them in the Q&A session later. So let's go through these 4 easy steps which you can take in your small business. The first one, which is the first robot by CERT New Zealand, it's like make your password long and unique. Yeah. So all of us know that we have to have, some organizations even say that you have to have a difficult password where you should have uppercase, lowercase, numeric. Actually, think about that. Do you really want to have that one, which is difficult to remember, or have a long one, like which you can remember, like 2, 3 words, one after the other, or a star at the start or star at the end? So what will be what will be easier for you? And on that note, actually, I want to ask you, an average New Zealander, how many passwords do you think an average New Zealander who uses, of course, electricity, water, banks, and so on, and I'm giving you some hints there. So how many passwords do you think they have got? Just put it in the chat box. What do you think would be an average number of passwords for a New Zealander? And this way I will also know that all of you are listening.
Hi, Jatinder. It's Melissa here. It says the meeting chat is muted. I don't know if that's for every. Oh, you've taken it off. No worries.
Yeah, good one. Yeah, good guesses out there. Please make more guesses before I come to the exact figure. Yeah. So Craig, you are on the money. Yes. So last in 2019, where there had been some research, not specific to New Zealand, but we are finding that New Zealanders are using online services more than quite a lot of other countries. So in 2019, an average New Zealander, average internet user had around 45 to 50 passwords. And in 2020, after our lockdowns and all, it increased to around 80. And this year, the research this year shows that around 100. Yeah, it's a little bit surprising for quite a few participants who attend our workshops or even our assessments. So what I would suggest is after this workshop, just make a list of the passwords if you don't really have it as yet. And then think about it. Which are the passwords you are using and why? And if you've got hundreds of passwords, expecting that many of them would be the same, which is again not a good practice. So what I would suggest is you actually use a password manager to securely store those passwords for yourself. So make sure that you remember and put a really good password on your password manager. Okay. So why? Because then you can have you won't have to remember all those passwords, so that you won't make mistakes, and you won't have to change passwords every once in a while by resetting your account. And this thing actually came up in one of the research, is that whoever has used the password, they actually had, over the period of time, they were able to secure and not have any security incident, or even if their identity was stolen or something happened, they were able to avert that because they had a really good password. And the second one on that note, which actually will make your accounts safer, is two-factor authentication. Some people call it multi-factor authentication. Some call it another like two-step authentication. So all these, they refer to something that which only you have or like entering a code from your phone, or getting a text, a 6-digit or an 8-digit number, which you can put in after you put in your password, or even a hardware key, like a UB key, which a lot of people use. So this functionality is provided by almost all the service providers like Xero, Google, Microsoft Office 365. There isn't any organization, I think, in this day and age uh, who's really serious about security, they won't provide. So they will provide you this option. So please, it'll be a little bit of extra step, but you won't have to do it every time. So if you are using your device, you can actually, if your device is strong enough, just do it on one device and save it, so that you don't have to do it every time. But we'll strongly suggest that you do it. And for an example, as I said, you have fingerprints as well. So on your applications as well, in your bank application on your mobile, you can put in your fingerprint as an extra level of authentication. Of course, you'll have to log on to your phone first, and then you have to log on to your banking or any other application which you've got. So these two were related to password. And another one, which is not really too much of a concern at this point to New Zealanders, but is really important, is privacy, like how much information we are sharing on our social media or email and so on. So mostly social media accounts, even LinkedIn has become a social media uh, platform these days with a lot of noise. But I would suggest that you go onto the settings and privacy settings of whichever social media platforms you are using, and check what kind of information you want to share. Do you want everybody to see your Facebook profile, your personal pictures, and so on? And then also know who your friends are. Actually, we only accept friend invitations from the people you know in real life, and make sure that you actually check with them that they have sent it. We have seen events where somebody has sent a friend friend request, and that was a fake identity. So the person shared some personal information over Facebook. And if you are oversharing too much, like avoid posting too much personal information about where you live, what you do, where you are, and how many children you've got, what's their name. So if you really have to do it, then keep it private to your friends only. And of course, you vet your friends. And some of the websites will ask you to set some account recovery questions in case you forget your password. Make sure answers to these ones are not posted online or on social media. Like, for example, which school you attended. For uh, some of the uh, online services, they ask and they say which town or which city did you grow up, or which school you attended. So if you are already providing that information, then obviously that's not uh, a secret to anybody. And the last one in this one, which is again easy to do, is update and back up your devices and apps. So there have been so many vulnerabilities and issues with Android, Apple, and Apple actually had a critical vulnerability where anybody could actually get an application installed on your Apple device if you clicked on a link, and that could steal your information. So not only Apple devices used to actually, we thought that they were encrypted, very secure, but we are seeing so many vulnerabilities in Apple devices as well. So they are not as secure as we thought they would be. And another one is, please back up your devices. If you lose your phone or lose your laptop, what would happen? Would you be able to live without all the pictures which you have taken over the period of time? If you are using an iPhone and you're using iCloud, obviously they get backed up, but you can always set up something like OneDrive or any other like Dropbox, which actually just syncs whatever information you have there. And of course, you put in some good password on OneDrive and Dropbox or whatever cloud storage you are using. So with this, I think these are the four basic ones, but I also would suggest that as an additional step, you do these 3-4 things more, like encrypt your devices. Your Apple iPhones are already encrypted, and Mac devices are already encrypted when you create an account there, and iCloud account as well. So, but on top of that, if you are using Android devices like me, you will have your devices won't be encrypted by default. So you can go to the settings and encrypt the device, so that even if you lose it, if somebody is able to get your device, then they are not able to access the data. And as we said earlier, check the link before you click. Check before you click. That's really important. Anything you are clicking on internet, we've become so used to of using information and clicking on link and getting more information than less. It's again a must. And for small businesses, it is important that you think about cyber insurance, because cyber insurance is one of the new kind of insurances which has come up. If you had a cyber incident, then insurance company could pay you for the losses, for the business losses essentially. And they are like, you have your life insurance, your car insurance. So would suggest that you also take care of your cyber insurance, or at least talk to your insurance advisor about this. And most importantly, think about what will happen if something of what will you do if something happens to your business. My 5.5-year-old, actually, she came up with this fire emergency plan or escape plan. So we had to make a plan, like where we'd go if there is a fire, what would we do? that was really important, really good for those 5 years old. But for us, I think sometimes it becomes really important. It's good that if we could make a one-page response plan on what we would do if we are hit by a cyber incident. And now we'll talk about the third part, actually the free resources. So I talked about encryption. I also talked about incident response plan. And I haven't talked about the work from home, what you should do and you should not. So we have made a list of 10 do's and don'ts while you are working from home. So this we can provide to anybody who wants it. And there are some awareness videos as well, which are free. We can provide you those ones, those 1 minute, 2 minutes videos on phishing, how to provide your employee a bit of education about security awareness and incident response plan. We can provide a free template for that. And also the first one, like encryption of your devices, you can encrypt your Android, Apple, or Microsoft, or even your Mac is already encrypted. So nobody uses BlackBerry these days, which used to be encrypted by default as well. So if you need any tips on encrypting the devices, we can provide that. What we'll suggest is you actually if you need any of this information, please let us know by email. I'll share the email address later, and then we can provide you any or of all of this information. And the last one, which actually is a next step kind of thing. If you need to have your business assessed, then we will provide you a discount voucher for that. Sorry, we can't do it for free because that requires our time. And we would surely provide you some good, actually a 20% discount on our published price on that for that assessment. And to end my part, and I'll introduce Michael after that. If you have had a security incident, or if somebody you know had a security incident or have a security incident, please report it to cert.govt.nz. There is easy to assess form which you can fill in. That's a New Zealand government organization, of course, free. And ID Care is a national identity theft management organization, which actually is active in New Zealand and Australia. It's a charity which provides more information about if your identity gets stolen, what you need to do. And the New Zealand operations manager, Neil, is a good friend. So if you need any pointers on that, let me know, or you can always go to idcare.govt.nz. And surely visit cert.govt.nz for more information on this. But as a next step for any businesses who require more information, I'll hand it over to Michael to take you through some of the other aspects. Michael, here you go.
All right, thank you, Jatinder. Welcome, everyone. So I will be talking a little about audit certification and assurance. And what it actually means and when do we need it is in most cases when our customers require us to provide them some evidence or assurance that our services are secure or our business is secure, or when we provide services to the government. There is also another more use cases where stakeholders or business owners, they want to have some assurance that what we do is cybersecurity resilient, let's say. And those are situations where audit or certification is an answer. And this is a simple chart, and let's take, for example, ISO 27001, which is one of the most common standards used in New Zealand to provide information that our company and services are secure. So keep in mind that this session is mostly about small businesses, and small businesses usually face a problem that the investment on security is usually limited. If you look at cost of certification, for example, ISO 27001, it's more or less starts from 15 to 20,000. And if you look at the SOC assurance reports, which is SOC 2 or Type 1 or Type 2, they're even more expensive. So what we do with small businesses, we introduce something which is called assurance statement, and it's based on the risk. So let's say that you have to comply or you want to comply with any standard. In this case, it's ISO 27001. So it is a requirement of the standard to have internal audit. Yes, we do the internal audit review. And based on the outcome of internal audit, which we conduct, we estimate the risk, because obviously when you do the first internal audit, not everything is in place. And usually you cannot get certification because you have gaps, you don't have some processes, or you don't have some security controls. But assurance statement is different. It gives you the answer of the level of compliance. And thanks to it, you also understand what's the risk to your business, or your customers understand what's the risk of using your services. It's way cheaper, and it's also used by many New Zealand companies, and not only New Zealand. And it's quite recognized. The assurance statement itself is issued by independent party, the Independent Security Rating Institute. And it's really good answer if you think that you have to start your journey with some assurance certifications or audits. It's also lead you to the next step, next phase, which is actually the gap assessment and implementation of the standard. It can be the ISO 27001, and then it leads you to the certification. So the first part, the internal audit and the assurance statement, you already have something what you can provide to your customer without being certified. Then when you have in bigger budget, you can actually pursue the certification. And in the end, the last phase is actually the SOC implementation. SOC standard is a bit different. So the major difference between certification and SOC 2 reports is that the certification gives you only information, yes, you comply with the standard. It doesn't say too much. And SOC 2 reports, this is effectiveness of the controls which you have in place. It's way more robust. It's also way more labor intensive. It's also way more expensive. So if you think that, we are talking mostly about small businesses, the first step, and it's really the cheapest one, it's half the cost, let's say, of the certification, is to pursue the assurance statement and do the audit. So in terms of, let's say, what we do for our customers, can you move Jatinder to next slide? Yes, so generally we work with different customers, different sizes of companies, small and big ones. And we try to address different needs of our customers or security standards. So the most common which we do for New Zealand companies is obviously ISO 27001. We also start doing it. It's getting traction after the changes to New Zealand Privacy Act of ISO 27701. This is the privacy management system. Some companies, they have a lot of customers in Australia, and this is where CPS 234 is coming in. Some companies deal with New Zealand government, and we also do New Zealand Information Security Manual audits. PCI DSS, obviously, if you are in fintech or finance sector, this is also where we help, and we provide the audit reports. And as always, SOC 1, 2, 3, and Type 1 and Type 2. The difference between Type 1 is like a snip of time, point in time audit or assurance opinion. So we just make sure that the control is implemented according to the design. In type 2, we measure the effectiveness of the controls over the time, and this is why the cost is way higher comparing to other assurance or certification solutions. That's pretty much it. Over to you, Jatinder.
Thank you, Michael. Thanks for your input into audit certification and insurance if anybody needs it. But again, many of the small businesses, if they are providing SaaS solutions or anything over internet, I think they might need any of these, or they might just need an assurance report just to make sure that their customers are assured that they are following some good security practices. But it is again an individual requirement, and we suggest that if you have got any questions about this, like what kind of certificate, or actually what do I need for my business, we would suggest you talk to us, send us an email at contact@SeComPass.com, and or go to the website, or give us a call. We, although our offices are closed, we are all working from home. So if you need anything, let us know. But I'll actually take this opportunity. So please feel free to contact us just for any queries.